In this training video, we're going to look at the use of mixed cell referencing within formulas. So for example, cell referencing, it means the use of dollar signs within formulas. So if we look at the formula in cell E3, we can see that B3 is the sales for North. And we're looking at finding out what the percentage of total sales is of B9. So it's B3 divided by B9. But then we've got dollar signs around B9 to make sure that when we copy the formula down the rest of the row E, to look at all the rest of the regions, it holds cell B9 in place. So if I click, for example, in E8, you can still see that B9 is held in place. So this is the most common use of dollar signs within Excel, and this is called absolute cell referencing, because a dollar before the B means you're locking the column, a dollar before the 9 means you're locking the row. So in effect, whenever you see dollar, you're looking at what's called absolute cell referencing. Now this can be activated by pressing the F4 key. So the F4 key is very, very useful for using dollar signs. Now the same approach is taken for column F. So for F3, for example, we're trying to see what a 25% of sales in North might be. So it's B3 multiplied by 25%. But then as we want to copy it down column F, we then want to see the H1 held in place. So if I look at the last amount, we can look at B8 multiplied by H1, which has kept the cell in place, the cell H1 in place. Now this isn't always the case where you want to just hold a cell. Now in the bottom example, when they look at sales increase and projecting an increase in sales. So we're going to do a formula, and then we're going to use what's called mixed cell referencing. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to increase the sales for North by the 20% in cell B14. So we're going to do the formula. So it's going to be equals the sales for North, which is B3. I'm going to increase it, so I'm going to plus it in my brackets, and I do the B3 again, which is the sales for North, multiplied by the 20% in cell B14. Close the bracket, enter. So if we do the mental maths behind the formula, 30,000, a 10% increase would be 3,000, 20% is 6,000, so 6,000 plus 30,000 gives us the 36,000. Now what we're trying to do with the formula is copy it across, then copy down to complete the whole of the grid. So we've got a projection for all the sales against all the percentages. So we're trying to forecast and project. We could also copy down, then across. So either way works, but the formula is the trigger. So the formula, if we get the dollar signs right, this enables us to complete the forecast area. So whenever I'm doing this kind of activity, I always highlight what's called a target cell. So it's really the last cell in your projected area. So in this case, I know that the last is West, and it's 50% increase on West. So I've done a formula in I20 to work this out. So West sales happens to be the 20,000, B8, plus we're increasing West sales again, multiplied by the 50%. So it's a 50% increase on 20,000, which happens to be 30,000. So if I get 30,000 to my target cell, I now know that the answer is correct. Now sometimes when you're working this out, you need to see how Excel works with no dollar signs and where it goes wrong to try and help you to see how to apply the dollar signs to a formula. So if I copied one across to C15, I can now see it's gone down. So what's happened? You're expecting it to go up from 36,000 because you're going to the 25%, but it's actually gone down. So when you look in the formula bar, you can see when you're copying across, it's actually moved into column C. So Excel doesn't know to stay within column B. So as it copies across, it's gone into C, and I want to stop it doing that. Now the C14 part of it is right, because C14 is the 25%. So as I'm copying across, I want to let Excel keep going across row 14 from B to C to D to E until I get to the 50%. So the C14 is working correctly, but the C3 should be B3. So as I'm moving across and copying across, I need to hold the column B in place for B3, for both B3s. So I'm going to delete that part of the formula and test it going down. And when I copy going down, it gives me hashes. Now hashes means the column isn't wide enough for the number. So this gives me millions. So what's gone wrong? The B4 side, fine, it's keeping within the sales. But the B15 this time has moved away from the 20%. It's actually gone into the 36,000. So as I'm copying down, it's pulling away from the percentage. So I don't want it to do that. I want it to hold the percentage. So we're now going to have a look at how to now apply the both problems we've got into the formula. So I'm going to delete the test and go back to the actual formula this time. So if I look at B3, now the B3 is your sales. Now what I want to make sure that this does, when I copy across, it can't move into the expenditure column. So the B3 has to remain the B. The B is what's important here. Now, for example, if you were to test the 3 and say, why isn't the 3 important? Well, if you look at row 3 is a mixture of sales, expenditure, and profit. So that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at only sales. So sales is in column B. So the F4 key, now on different laptops, it's function F4 or just F4. On a desktop computer, it's just F4. So it depends on the laptop sometimes whether it's function F4. So I'm going to press F4 on this laptop, and that gives me $. So the first press the F4 is holding the B and the 3. Now that's not what I want. If I do a second press of the F4, now that's just giving me what's called relative cell referencing against the row. So what's happened here is the row 3 is held in place. I don't want that $, either. Third press of the F4, that's the one I want. I want the B to be held in place. Well, if I'm holding the one B3 in place, I must hold the other B3 in place. 2, 3. Now for the B14, again, I've got to investigate what's important to me. Now this time, the B isn't important to me. Because if I look at column B, what is it? It's a mixture of sales, headings, blank cells. It's a mixture of information. That's not important to me. What is important is the 14, because the row 14 holds all my percentages. So again, I'm going to use the F4 key. First press, not the one I want. Second press, yes, the one I want. So now to make this projection work, I needed $B3 plus $B3 again in the brackets, multiplied by $14. Accept the answer. Now I can either copy down, then across, or across, then down. This is preference. I tend to copy across, leave them highlighted. The hash means the column isn't wide enough, so I'm just going to widen the column. Now we're going to look at the mental maths quickly for a minute. So if you think of a 50% increase in North, well, North happens to be 30,000. Half of that is 15,000. 15,000 plus 30,000 gives you your 45,000. Now I'm going to copy the whole highlighted part down to my target cell. Let go. And now the target cell is replaced with the 30,000. So that proves the forecast model is working. So this is how to use Excel for forecasting, projection terms, and business analysis using dollar signs, and dollar signs which in this case, because they're used in different ways, we're calling this mixed cell referencing. So when you don't use dollar dollar and you've got to choose where the dollar's going, that's called mixed cell referencing. So this training video now completes the example of mixed cell referencing for this example for projection of sales analysis.